My name is Agent Nikki Kendo with Horrific Encounters, and today we'll be discussing what makes Subject 005 the zombie-slaying veteran who just needed a water fight, William Bill Overbeck, one of 4 original survivors that were left for dead. Bill served 2 duties during the Vietnam War, during which he suffered a knee injury due to shrapnel boring into his leg, causing permanent damage. And 2 days before the first infection, Bill was at a veterans hospital waiting for an operation, possibly related to his knee injury. While waiting, a resident staff member attempts to make small talk with Bill regarding Bill's missing family and smoking habits. Bill then brushes him off, telling him to go practice somewhere else. As Bill dozes off from the surgery anesthesia, one of the nurses turns due to the green flu infection and kills the operation room staff. Bill somehow staves off his oncoming unconsciousness through sheer force of will, as he simultaneously fights off the infected nurse, disabling her momentarily. Defending himself with a bone saw and knife, Bill fights the sudden horde of infected outside the hospital. Back home, Bill takes out his old military fatigues and puts them on, ready for a new war. Now, the story of Bill Overbeck is somewhat of a long one outside of his base lore and background stories. Starting in the city of Fairfield, Pennsylvania, we find Bill on a rooftop with his fellow survivors directly after the opening cutscene of Left 4 Dead. This is the campaign No Mercy. Bill and his friends need to traverse the city to make it to the Mercy Hospital to meet a helicopter for a chance of evacuation out of the city. After escaping Fairfield and No Mercy, the helicopter crashes in an area close to the abandoned highway in Death Toll. This is the campaign crash course. With the pilot having fallen to the infection, Zoe is forced to kill him mid-flight. Having survived the crash landing intact, the survivors make their way across alleys to a garage, where they find an armored delivery truck on top of a vehicle elevator just out of reach. What's interesting about this armored truck is that it's a direct reference to the 2004 zombie movie Dawn of the Dead. And right after that, we get Death Toll. The survivors finally made it to the riverside. Due to the pathway blocked on the abandoned highway, the survivors follow the drainage system of Riverside, go to a church, traverse the town of Riverside, and finally arrive at a boathouse on the riverbank. There, the survivors wait for rescue from a civilian fishing boat. In the Left 4 Dead 2, when you play this map, you can now see the armored van behind a group of fallen trees, showing that Bill and the gang had to abandon the armored vehicle on the trail. The survivors travel from the church in Death Toll to the rooftops of Dead Air off-screen, likely by traveling through the city and finding a safe house. While a cut campaign called The River was originally intended to bridge this gap, the transition is not directly depicted in the final game. So after the cancelled campaign The River, we have Dead Air. The survivors stranded in a large greenhouse full of infected. They witness a plane fly by overhead. Deciding the best way to escape the city is via the airport, they make their way through a metropolitan area, over rooftops, a construction site, an air station terminal, and finally a last stand at a runway final. There, the survivors see a C-137 Hercules plane that has run out of fuel and needs help refueling. So interesting enough, Dead Air was the first ever Left 4 Dead campaign I ever saw, because I watched Markiplier play it with Jack, Bob, and Wade a long time ago back when I was in middle school. Another fun fact is that there was another cut campaign in between Dead Air and Blood Harvest, called Damn It. Damn It, an unfinished campaign developed by Turtle Rock Studios that was originally made to bridge the gap between Dead Air and Blood Harvest, is now still playable in its unfinished version via an add-on and mods. Alright, we're almost done here, so on to Blood Harvest, where we find our survivors lost in the middle of a thick forest. The survivors follow the path to a train yard and through a repair warehouse. Following the railway lines, they move past a bridge, a train station, and finally to a farmhouse final. With nobody in sight, the survivors call via radio to the military, and from there wait for an armored personnel carrier to pick them up. But in the meantime, the infected have discovered their location. After the aftermath of Blood Harvest and the comics titled of the same name as this new campaign, we have The Sacrifice. The survivors arrive in a shipyard by train and must battle their way through constant hordes, an imprisoned tank, and some rather bothersome birds in hopes of finding a working sailboat. Unfortunately, the almost flawless plan to raise the bridge and escape the largest horde anyone has ever witnessed goes awry after one of the generators malfunctions. In order to save the others, one of the survivors must sacrifice themselves so that the others may proceed. Anyone may do this. The campaign was also released at the same time for Left 4 Dead 2. Now, spoiler alert for an over decade-old game, but canonically speaking, this is where Bill Overbeck dies. He is the one who jumps off the bridge and turns the generator back on, sacrificing himself for his 3 friends. But is this really the end for William Bill Overbeck? Because within the trailer for the Left Behind chapter of Dead by Daylight, as he lays dying on the generator room floor, he is taken into the realm of the entity, forced to play the game of cat and mouse for all eternity. Other than Left 4 Dead and Dead by Daylight, Bill has actually been put into a few other games as either an Easter egg or completely playable character. Alongside his fellow Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 survivors, Bill is a playable character in Zombie Army 4, with a small hint of lore for it being, Bill and his crew were transported backward through time and across dimensions due to the magical reality-bending Plan Z rituals conducted by Nazi occultists. And according to the Zombie Army Trilogy lore, which precedes Zombie Army 4, the characters were thrust into this new world via a wrong place, wrong time scenario involving occult practice. In the zombie survival game Dying Light, Bill is not a canonical character, but is actually just an outfit wearable by the main character Kyle Crane. The last known notable account of Bill being seen outside his respected games is an Easter egg in Payday the Heist, where in the heist No Mercy, you play in the Mercy Hospital, ripped right from Left 4 Dead, and you see Bill enter the elevator as you exit. This has caused many theories as to which game is canon to which game, and I'll say this, Payday is canon to Left 4 Dead, but Left 4 Dead is not canon to Payday. Boom, settled it. Bill is an old man, and his silver hair and crooked posture show that. He wears brownish pants, mud-covered combat boots, a tan-yellow undershirt, his military service jacket, and his iconic green beret, and he is never seen alive without his cigarette dangling from his mouth. He also has a pistol holster on his hip. Bill's design is the perfect look for a man who was rushing home to grab the things most important to his war. A soldier always needs his uniform. Bill's weapon of choice is that of the Tier 2 rifle, the M16. This is most definitely due to the fact that the average GI's rifle in Vietnam was an M16, but they were historically unreliable at the time. Now, through Dead by Daylight, we also have a look into what Bill looked like as he served in Vietnam due to the Tome 7 trailer, The Forsaken. My only problem with this outfit is that it looks way more Desert Storm than Vietnam. It's mainly in the hat and glasses, and his flak jacket just looks way more modern than a Vietnam-era uniform. William Bill Overbeck is one of those characters in his horror subgenre that shows what it means to be a survivor. In the 2010s, we saw what I call the zombie boom. The Walking Dead, Dead Rising, COD Zombies, The Last of Us, and of course, Left 4 Dead. Other than maybe COD Zombies and Dead Rising, each of these stories have something in common: the reluctant hero. Rick Grimes, Joe Miller, and Bill Overbeck did not start the apocalypse thinking that they would find their family, but as Officer Friendly himself put it,
I found them.
When the green flu outbreak hit, Bill only saw it as his chance to be a soldier again, to have a fight back in his spirit, until he met Zoe, Lewis, and Francis. Before the apocalypse, it's said that Bill grew distant from his family and any close relationships. In the Sacrifice comic, as Bill rushes home from the hospital to get his gear, we see a photo of a young Bill in the jungles of Vietnam with his fellow GIs. From what we know of Bill, I'd say that this was the last time he felt he had purpose, the last time he felt happy. In the jungle, Bill had men whose lives depended on him, and now he has that again with his ragtag group of survivors. And just like mid-season's Rick Grimes, Bill was willing to kill and leave anybody for dead if it meant his group, specifically Zoe, would be safe and okay. Bill had various different relationships with the group, each exactly what the person needed for them to survive, in my opinion. Lewis and Bill have a mentor and instructor relationship. Lewis keeps the group positive and Bill keeps the group grounded. They may be opposite, but they are more like mirrors of each other on the opposite spectrums. Francis is a rude asshole that can't handle authority in any systems of rules and law. So yeah, he and Bill don't really get along, but the funny thing about them is that they both do fully trust and respect each other to the fullest extent of the word. They bicker and argue, but in the end of the day, they act more like brothers, more than anything, because Francis knows that they need Bill to survive. In fact, when Bill jumped off the bridge, Francis wanted to jump off as well and sacrifice himself to save Bill. Now, the most important relationship is between Bill and Zoe. Bill sees Zoe as a form of surrogate daughter/granddaughter. Bill and Zoe truly trust and love each other, and Bill does all that he does to keep Zoe safe. He says her name first as he jumps off the bridge to sacrifice himself to save his found family. All Bill needed was a war, and he picked up a gun and enlisted as the world fell to the infected. He gave his life to save those he met only a couple of weeks ago. Through bullets, blood, bile, and bombings, Bill showed what it meant to survive and to die for who you love. Like Rick said,
I found him.
My name is Agent Nicky Kindos with Horrific Encounters, and I thank you for watching. Goodbye.